I'm a social drinker, not an alcoholic.
Is the argument that many alcoholics make in today's society. And a controversial Family Guy episode that delves deep into the issue of alcoholism is Season 9's Friends of Peter G. This episode tackles many aspects of alcoholism, such as social drinking versus alcoholism, Alcoholics Anonymous, the broader effects of alcohol on a person's life, including the decisions they make and the relationships they strain, and finally, the importance of moderation. This exploration of alcoholism is both reflective of societal attitudes toward addiction and offers a critique of self-destructive behaviors masked as social bonding. But why was this episode met with so much controversy? Let's dive right in and find out. The episode begins with Peter and Brian at the movies. However, Peter brings alcohol with him.
You snuck in liquor?
Yeah, it loosens me up so I can talk to the people around me.
All right, I'll get in on that.
This is typically a common excuse for people to consume alcohol, and Family Guy exaggerates this idea by placing Brian and Peter at the movies where you wouldn't talk to people around you, unless you wanted to get shouted at by Karen in row C. Further, the idea of drinking in a movie theater plays on social norms, mocking the idea that alcohol is essential for enjoying simple activities. After a few swigs of Peter's liquor, Brian and Peter are completely gone.
Seen this movie. Let's talk about other movies we've seen.
That's an excellent idea. I like The Madness of King George.
Well, I don't know what that is, but the Cat from Outer Space is a solid motion picture. Oh, and I like King Ralph, cause that's the last guy you'd expect to be king of nothing.
Hey, shut up!
This scene vividly showcases how Peter and Brian, while intoxicated, are oblivious to social norms and their environment, that being a movie theater, as their behavior escalates from harmless comments to more destructive actions. Peter's excessive drinking is portrayed through his loud and obnoxious outbursts, while Brian, usually the more rational of the two, also succumbs to the effects of alcohol, joining Peter in his antics.
I don't think you heard me, buddy. Step away from the young lady. All right, Iron Zering, you asked for it.
You're wrong. Stop.
Oh my God, I think I'm in Narnia.
This highlights that alcohol erases their boundaries, making them careless and dangerous. Joe later arrests Peter and Brian, and they attend court where they are charged for...
This court finds you guilty of creating a public disturbance and destruction of private property, and all of this while under the influence of alcohol.
To be honest, I can't believe Joe couldn't let Brian and Peter get away with this one. I'm sure he has let them get away with much worse. Anyways, Peter and Brian are sentenced to attend 30 days of Alcoholics Anonymous as part of their court-ordered punishment for public intoxication, which Peter and Brian are not too happy about.
This sucks. Can't believe that judge is making us go to a month of AA.
This is where Brian and Peter express that they are social drinkers as opposed to alcoholics. Which brings us to the first theme this episode explores. The concept of social drinking versus alcoholism is outlined when they both attend their Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, where everyone at the meeting starts expressing their troubles with alcohol. But here's the thing, Peter's version of events is anything but normal. He believes these chaotic moments of binge drinking are typical social experiences, even though he's consistently breaking the law or putting himself in dangerous situations. He views his stories as normal social drinking experiences with his friends.
This one time, me and Joe and Quagmire made a bet to see who could drink the most beer and still drive. And you know that water slide in South Attleboro?
Water slide!
Peter expresses that this was greatest day of his life and he owes it all to alcohol. But hold the phone for a second, how did they not get arrested for this? This has got to be Peter's 10th court order at this point. Now this is where Family Guy tackles the idea of social drinking versus alcoholism. Peter's story embodies the idea of social drinking, where alcohol consumption occurs in a social setting and is normalized by a group, that being Peter's friends. While social drinking is typically controlled and occasional, alcoholism involves a loss of control over alcohol intake, with drinking taking priority over responsibilities and relationships. Peter's constant, excessive drinking and the consequences he faces now suggest that he has moved beyond social drinking and into alcohol dependence. This is a common trajectory where regular social drinking can evolve into drinking problems if boundaries are not maintained. Peter's extreme actions like drunk driving down a water slide are comedic exaggerations, but they emphasize how drinking in excess, even when rationalized as social, can have serious consequences. In reality, the line between social drinking and alcoholism can be blurry. Research shows that social drinking becomes problematic when it begins to interfere with daily life, responsibilities, and relationships, as it does for Peter. Many alcoholics, like Peter, often rationalize their behavior by viewing their drinking as normal since it occurs in social settings. At the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, Bruce says to Peter and Brian,
"Listen to me. You need to relinquish your dependence and give yourself over to a higher power."
The group emphasizes the importance of accepting that alcohol has negatively impacted their lives and that abstinence is the only path forward. At this point, Brian asks,
Oh, I don't know. Are we allowed to have a different view?
which leads into the second theme this episode explores. Brian's questioning of the rigid nature of Alcoholics Anonymous's approach highlights the tension between personal autonomy and the group's approach to sobriety. When Brian and Peter get back, they express to Lois,
Okay, let's say for a minute that I do have a drinking problem. How is being forced to join a cult for 30 days supposed to fix that?
Alcoholics Anonymous's approach relies heavily on group-based recovery, with the idea that individuals can heal through collective support and by following the 12 steps, which include accepting that one is powerless over alcohol. Critics argue, including Brian, that this undermines personal autonomy and self-efficacy. Instead of empowering individuals to take control of their own recovery, the focus on powerlessness and dependence on the group can feel disempowering to those who believe in self-directed solutions. One of the fundamental issues that many people have, and one that Brian displays, is Alcoholics Anonymous' emphasis on spirituality and the acceptance of a higher power. This critique here parallels the larger skepticism that Alcoholics Anonymous is too rigid in its requirement for belief in a higher power. He would rather approach his drinking problem in a way that aligns with his rational mindset. By questioning Alcoholics Anonymous's spiritual component, Brian critiques the forced conformity that comes with being part of AA's recovery process. In Brian's words,
They've just traded one addiction for another. Their life goes from being all about drinking to being all about AA. The only difference is when it's all about drinking, they're more fun.
while AA has undoubtedly helped many, its one-size-fits-all approach, pressure to conform, and spiritual underpinnings can feel alienating to those who prefer individualized, secular, or scientifically based approaches to recovery, which is something this episode heavily explores. This episode ultimately shows both the strengths and limitations of AA, pointing out that recovery isn't one-size-fits-all. Things escalate when Peter and Brian encourage the other attendees to drink alcohol by convincing them that,
Yeah, you all stopped drinking because you were hurting your loved ones. But you can't hurt them if they don't know you're drunk. Let's make this our sanctuary.
I wants me that beer.
After the party, Peter decides to drive home drunk. What a good idea.
All right, take it easy.
All right, you two, get out of here. Hey, like your jeans.
Thanks.
What size are you?
Yeah, I don't think we're the same size.
Yeah, we'll figure it out tomorrow.
And that's when things get really serious and the show explores the third theme of the episode. Peter ends up crashing and has a profound encounter with death. In this scene, Death shows Peter his life with alcohol if he keeps drinking as much as he does, and the decisions he will make and the effects it has on himself and the relationships around him. Death first shows a Peter fully dependent on alcohol. In this scene, he is drinking from the bottle, smoking a cigar, and looks like an absolute slob. The completely drunken Peter is shown abusing his family with cigar burns.
Ah!
Wait a minute, who are you?
I'm your other son, Micawber, here for my cigar burn, good sir.
Stewie, go on, get out of here.
This deliberate act carries different implications about alcohol, abuse, and control. The scene forces the audience to confront the darker side of alcoholism. Instead of portraying Peter as a lovable, bumbling drunk, it shows a more sinister aspect of his relationship with alcohol. It gives him the confidence and the justification to be malicious. This deliberate act of violence points to how substance abuse can amplify underlying tendencies toward cruelty, aggression, and a lack of empathy. It serves as a cautionary tale about how alcohol can escalate abusive behavior and make it easier for people to harm those they should care for. The show essentially delivers a serious message. Alcoholism isn't just about drinking too much. It's about the way it changes who you are and how you treat the people you love. The second scenario, Death, shows Peter,
Please you, Griffin.
Well, that was a good idea you had, dunking your hand in the toilet.
Peter shouts that his boss Angela is disgusting and that he would never have intercourse with her. But Death argues that when Peter is drunk, she doesn't seem as disgusting as he thinks when he is sober. This scene accentuates alcohol's impact on perception and effect on an individual's decision-making. Research shows that alcohol reduces inhibitions, making people more likely to engage in behaviors they wouldn't typically consider when sober. Alcohol impairs the brain's decision-making centers, particularly the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thought and self-control. As a result, people often make choices under the influence that contradict their sober intentions. Peter's assertion that Angela is disgusting and undesirable is a rational decision he makes when sober. But this judgment is not as reliable when alcohol is involved. This highlights how alcohol can lead to decisions that are more impulsive and less guided by reason, leading to decisions of regret. Anyways, at the thought of having intercourse with Angela, Peter says,
Oh my God, I wouldn't have sex with Angela. She's disgusting.
Death then shows Peter a life without alcohol, where he has gone stone cold turkey.
Stewie, hug, 2 in a row. Try for 3, Chris? Up, no, high five. Well, that's okay, high five's great too.
In this life, Peter is extremely cheerful, has a different voice, and drinks milk with uptight friends at the Drunken Clam. And he also does not know Joe or Quagmire, but instead looks at them as noisy and vulgar. Peter also does not like this version of himself at all either, as he describes it as a complete bore. This is almost a cautionary tale about striving for perfection. The alternate Peter is more successful, responsible, and sober, but his life feels joyless and disconnected. There's an irony here in that by removing one of the major sources of Peter's flaws, alcohol, the episode also strips away the traits that make him an interesting and, in some ways, lovable character. This alternate life suggests that while alcohol can be destructive, it also plays a role in shaping Peter's more likable qualities, his humor, spontaneity, and social connections. Now, the episode doesn't leave Peter without a chance at redemption. This leads us into the fourth and final theme of the episode, the importance of moderation and responsibility. Death, after he shows Peter a life of excessive alcohol, where he is a jerk, and a life of zero alcohol, where he is a douche, says to Peter,
You members of the human race have the ability to send a man to the moon and make Justin Long a movie star. With that kind of willpower, don't you think you can learn to put the bottle down just sometimes?
At the end of the episode, Peter decides that instead of quitting drinking entirely, he will drink only a little, embodying the idea of a healthier moderation approach to the consumption of alcohol.
Wow, Peter, I never thought I'd see the day. Good for you.
By the end, the lesson becomes clear. Neither extreme is good. That being going completely cold turkey to alcohol or drinking alcohol like water. The episode promotes the idea that enjoying alcohol or other pleasures in moderation is the healthiest and most sustainable approach. The moral of the story pushes for a middle ground, implying that life is best lived in balance, indulging responsibly while maintaining control. However, this was criticized by many people who watched the episode due to its themes of alcohol, and the idea that moderation is key due to being a common misconception that moderation is an easy or acceptable alternative to full sobriety. This comedic twist underscores the difficulty that many alcoholics face in trying to control their drinking. Moderation, or controlled drinking, is the idea that one can drink responsibly without becoming intoxicated or allowing alcohol to interfere with daily life. For some people, moderation is possible, but for many alcoholics, it is incredibly difficult to maintain. Alcoholism is a chronic disease, and for individuals who are alcohol dependent, moderation often leads to relapse. Research indicates that for people with severe alcohol use disorder, total abstinence is typically the safest and most effective approach to recovery. Peter's decision to drink only a little is meant to be humorous, but it also reflects the challenge of maintaining moderation for someone with Peter's level of dependence. Alcoholics often try to justify their drinking by promising to cut back, but without addressing the underlying issues of addiction, moderation often fails. The episode leaves the audience with the implication that Peter's decision might not be a completely realistic solution to his problem, highlighting the difficulty of achieving true moderation for an alcoholic. Whether you accept this totally depends on your perception of alcohol and your experience with it. So let me know what you think.